Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is that you're watching this. Thank you so much for joining us for the month of April for Uke Lab. This is week 1 for our standard track. We're going to be working on the tune Brown Eyed Girl, which is super fun tune. It's got a little intro picking that we're going to work on, and yeah, really looking forward to diving in this tune with you this month. Remember, since this is a pre-recorded class, make sure that you're using kind of the medium to its best capabilities, either watching it more than once or skipping parts that aren't as relevant on that second time through, repeating parts that you need to hear over again. Remember, what you're trying to draw from a lot of what we do in class is concepts. Think about the things how we sequence things, how the order that we go into. And if you can run that throughout your practice, then you're going to have a lot better chance of starting to get some of these skills nailed down for this tune through the month. So hope things are going well. Hope ukulele is going well. Make sure if you guys got any questions, you can shoot them via Slack. You can email me. You can text me. You can give me a smoke signal. There's a lot of ways you can do it. Why don't we get started? I think today we're gonna start with rhythm. For me, since this tune has a little bit of more syncopated rhythm, for a lot of people, it might be a little difficult trying to get the feeling of this rhythm and how to move your hands. Why don't we just start with a simple exercise? We're just going to go downs on 1, 2, 3, 4, just hitting quarter notes. And then we're actually going to try the same exercise, same length of time, but instead of starting on the down beats, we're going to start on the off beats or the up strums. Okay, so first we go quarter notes with down strums. 1, 2, ready, together, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now we take a little break and I count 1, 2. Now it sounds like this. We go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now those up strums, they're going to feel awkward at first, but remember, they're the same length of time as your down strums. We're just starting with a different direction. So remember that up hand has to come down across the strings before you come up again, right? And this is a really, really great way for starting to establish how that can feel natural for you, right? It's almost instantaneous that if you ask somebody to strum down on quarter notes, that they can get it and it feels natural. But if you ask them to do this sort of off-tempo strum and feel those off beats as quarter notes, it starts to get a little trickier. Your brain has to work a lot harder. So what you want to do is get that to feel a little more natural. Remember, as I count, you're going to miss on the beat. So you go 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's a nice exercise to kind of rotate between playing quarter notes on beat, 1, 2, 3, and playing quarter notes off beat. So remember that exercise, really try and break it down. Let's just alternate for now. We'll go 2 measures apiece. 1, 2, quarter notes on the downs. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. All right, now let's try it on the off beats. Here we go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and sorry about that. My lights kind of went down. Give me 1 second. We'll see if we can readjust here. Oh, I love live stuff. It's fun, isn't it? Okay. There. Yeah, put that into place. Hopefully that stays a little better. Okay. Sorry about that. Little interruption there. Let's see if we can try again. Okay, quarter notes, 2 measures apiece. 1, 2, quarter notes on the down. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Now we go quarter notes, but we start on the off beat. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Now quarter notes on the downs. 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2. All right, off beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and last time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2. Ready? On the off beats and miss up, miss up, miss up, miss up, miss and finish on 1. Nicely done. Remember, those kind of exercises really help you to start to stabilize rhythms that feel a little bit more off or syncopated. And remember, strumming up in quarter notes eventually will feel as natural as those down strums, on the on beat. And if you can start to lock that in, that's an integral part of a lot of different rhythms. And so you want it to feel as comfortable as possible. All right, let's break down what rhythm we're actually doing in this piece. We're going to start with a quarter note into an eighth note and then finish on the up strum. So I'm thinking just on the beats 1, 2, and. Just starting like that. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, and. Let's go again. 1, 2, and. Down, down, up. Down, down, up. Now remember, that's two of the same direction on the quarter notes. 1, and then right here we're doing another down, but since we have a fast, quick upbeat, we're actually going to catch the up strum on the way up. So it sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and. Again. 1, 2, and. Nice. Now let's see if we can keep that rhythm going and see if we can pick up one more up strum, just like we were doing in the exercise. Right after that up strum, we add one more. 1, 2, and. Just like that. 1, 2, and. Again. 1, 2, and. Catching that offbeat. And remember, those two up strums, I'll slow it down on this one. When I strum that up, if I freeze here, freeze to stop and think about it. Remember, I'm going to get caught in that moment where, oh, I'm going the wrong direction. Oh, I need to come back here down. It's really just feeling the third beat without touching it. 1, 2, and 3 without touching. And now you're set up for the and, right? Let's try it again. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and again. Nice. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Again. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and just like that. And. Now, what we're going to do after that last up strum, we're just going to fill out the rest of the eighth note. So I'm just going to make contact with the string. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, and. See how I just come up, down, up. I connect all of the directions, and now I'm playing eighth notes through the rest of that measure. Sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4. And 1, 2, and 4. And then we're starting over. Here's the beginning of the rhythm before it repeats again. Just like that, yeah? Do that a few rotations. We're just going to take it slow and then slowly speed up. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, and 4. And 1, 2, and 4. Just like that. 1, 2, and let's finish on 1. So remember, if you need to take that slower, if you need to take that faster, either way, if that's a rhythm that's very comfortable for you, what you really want to think is just put it on autopilot, right? Anytime you want to take it out, use it. It's not like you got to recall or dig out any of those memories. It's just you want that hand flowing through. Let's look at some of the left-hand shapes we need to know for this tune. Our first chord is a G, and that's actually the key that we're in. So if you look close at my hand here, it is 0, 2, 3, and 2. Back that camera up just a little bit. 0, 2, 3, and 2, right there. And I kind of envision this one as a little bit of a triangle shape. Here, base of the pyramid, and then there, that ring finger is the top or the point on the triangle. That's our first chord. Our second chord is C, which I think most people in the room know how to play. And then this chord might be unfamiliar for some, but really this is just stacking your fingers, starting with the pointer finger, second fret on the G string. Middle finger goes underneath it on the same fret. So now I've got the G and the C held down on 2, and then I got to try and tuck that ring finger underneath for the D chord. Just like that. So that's going to give us our A section, just those 3 chords, G, C, and now watch, pointer finger drops to 2 on the G string, and then I just stack my fingers underneath it. Now let's talk about this chord shape a little bit. Now, if my hand is in this position, which means that it's more like I'm trying to catch the ukulele neck. Almost, well, I mean, this is how you would naturally do it. If this was falling, you'd catch it like this, right? But that's not actually how we hold the ukulele. We want to think more like a handshake kind of position. And if you look, there's a natural curve. This little cup that goes in between your thumb and your pointer finger. And so what you want to do is just nestle the back of the ukulele into that. And then from there, try and stack your fingers. One way you can check in with yourself is, are you supporting the neck here? Is it touching the knuckle? And then also, are your fingers at a diagonal? Because if your fingers are here, sort of parallel with the fret wires instead of diagonal, then you're going to have a lot harder time stacking all those 3 fingers inside of that 1 fret. Versus if I'm more sideways, kind of diagonal here, then those frets seem a little bigger, right? The fingers can kind of stack right on top of each other. So that's one thing to think about inside the G chord. Let's see if we can move through these chords with whole notes. 1, 2, ready, G. 2 and ready, C. 2 and ready, D. Remember, if you need more time, just take it slower, but what you're trying to memorize is transformation, right? How do my fingers move between each of these chords? What do the pictures look like? How do I move between them? C and then to D. All right, let's take a little breather from that. And what I want to do is actually pull up the song sheet. Make sure you have this printed out. And on hand. I'm going to put it up on the whiteboard for now, but just make sure that you have it. You kind of start to look at this, because this is really your roadmap through the whole song. I'm just going to change one thing on my settings. Go display. Change it to never. Okay. So yeah, let's see if we can look at. Here's the song sheet. Make sure you have this page kind of printed out. This is going to tell you all the lyrics plus the important thing up at the top here, which are our chord progressions. So remember, I said you need 3 chords for the kind of A section. And this is really for the verse and the chorus of the tune, which is really nice. You kind of have the same progression for 2 sections of the song. So once you know this progression in this order, G, C, G, and D, then you know a really big portion of the song. Remember, it's your left hand's job to really get the routine of moving between those chords, tying it into what it sounds like and what it feels like to play. And then that's it. That's the only job your left hand has, is to move through those chords, through the verse and the chorus. Obviously, you got a new progression for the bridge, but we'll get to that in a second. Just make sure that that progression is starting to get locked in. Same thing with the rhythm, right? My left hand's job is to move through the chords, kind of on their own, find the connecting points between those chord shapes. And then my right hand's job is to handle that rhythm throughout the tune. And that's really their only job. So let's make sure that we know that and we can lock it in. So now we have those 3 chords, but now we have a different order, right? We're going to substitute a G in for the 3rd measure, and then we're going to play a D for the last measure. So it's G, C, G, and D. Make sure that is memorized, not just by letter name, but also by feel as your hands are moving through it. So let's go back to this camera, and we'll do that same whole note exercise, but now what we'll do is I'll actually play the progression, which is G, C, G, and D. Let's try it with whole notes. 1, 2, ready, and remember, your first job is to find these chord shapes and execute them. But as soon as they start to lock into place, as soon as they start to become a little more comfortable, takes a little less effort, then what you actually want to do is think about how one chord moves to the next. I'll slow the tempo down on the next rotation, and we'll kind of talk about each transformation. So if I look at my G chord here, what I'm going to do, see how my ring finger's already on the 3rd fret. If I drop that ring finger to the A string, then I've already got my C chord. Not a ton of work. All I did was drop the ring finger, lift the other fingers, and I've got my C chord, right? And then I sort of reverse the order when I go back into the G, right? My 2 fingers can go down for the bass, and then that ring finger can jump back up. There's the G, right? Let's even connect those 2, just whole notes. 1, 2, ready, G to C. And now we're really thinking transformation. We're thinking, how does one move into the next? Just back and forth. Remember, the most efficient movement is by moving your hands the least. Think those hands don't want to jump around. You don't really want to take this chord shape, erase it, try to find the next one, erase that one, try to find the next one, right? You just want a nice connection. See what's common between the 2 chords. For me, that ring finger serves as a nice pivot point, a nice place to focus on as I'm switching, right? So our progression is G, C, and then it goes back to G, and then it goes to D, right? And so D, what I like to look for is commonalities when I'm trying to find transformation between chords. Does everybody see how my pointer finger's on the 2nd fret? It's on the C string, but it's on the right fret. So if I can hop it from the C string up to the G string, then I've got the start of my little finger stack, right? All 3 of those fingers. So I can take this pointer finger on the C string 2nd fret and I can move it, just jump it up to the G string. Hops, it kind of rides the elevator up to the top. So now let's see if we can do whole notes between those 2 chords, G to D. 1, 2 whole notes, here we go. And hopping up, just like that, yeah? And remember, what you're looking for is connection, transformation, right? Commonalities between the chords and the least amount of movement. For me, that pointer finger serves as a nice pivot point, just like the ring finger did in the transformation from G to C, right? A few more times. And remember, just train your hands how to make the movements because eventually it'll just be their job. You don't have to manage it anymore. The hands will just flow through. All right, with those things in mind, remember, whenever I'm trying to make those mental maps, what I really try to do is sort of find those connections and then sort of just shut my brain off. It's more like I'm looking at my hands for a while, and then I'm just sort of feeling my way through each one of those chord changes because the more natural that chord change can feel, the smoother it's going to become. For me, it's like just create a straight line to your end goal. Your end goal is to be able to map those chord shapes out, your left hand moving through them with very little mental kind of management on your part. So remember, if it's the left hand's job, then let's see if we can just get it there sooner, right? Just jumping between those 2 chord shapes. See if we can take it one more run, and now we'll kind of link them all together. So we'll do G to C, G to D, and then we'll have our progression, yeah? Whole notes, 1, 2, ready, and hey, where did we go? To G, days went to D, rains came, and G. Down in the hollow. That's it. Playing a new game. Now remember, it's all about connection. G, my ring finger drops a string. There's my C. I reverse that. G, and now my pointer finger jumps up to the G string, just like that. And then we try one more time. G, ring finger drops down. There's my C and G. And pointer finger jumps up. Yeah, and then let's finish on G. So you can see we're, a good way through the lesson, and we really haven't even tried to combine those 2. So make sure you're thinking about that in your own practice, that both of these skills, can be separated. You can practice one at a time to really focus on that skill, and that means that you're going to be starting to get those movements faster. It's just a more efficient way to learn, right? Think about it, when you're actually playing a song, usually what you're doing is, multiple skills, at least 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, depending on the way you look at it. And so what you want to do is actually try and get some of those skills individually really locked into your muscle memory before you start to synthesize them together, right? We've all had this experience of thinking we know how to play a tune, and then as soon as we start singing, everything falls apart. Or we can move through those chords pretty well, but I keep losing track of the rhythm every time I get to the hard chord. We've all experienced that. And so what you want to think about is that each of these skills can be broken down, focused on, worked on in a very, I like to call it like a clean environment, not a lot of other elements going on. And then you just learn it faster, right? It's a more efficient way to learn. So make sure you keep that stuff in mind. You try just, the exercises that we've been working on, try those to warm up and see if you can do it the same way every day this week. And, by the end of the week, usually we're not having any problems with a lot of the basic skills we need for this tune. That being said, let's try and synthesize these 2 skills. Let's remind ourselves of what that rhythm sounds like. And remember, if this is still a little bit troubling for you, remember, you want to be able to say it or clap it before you even strum it, right? If you can do this. Dot, 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 1, 2, and 4. And if you can say that rhythm, then it's a lot easier to try and make that happen with your hand. And it's all about keeping that hand moving, right? In between beats 1 and 2, I'm coming up, in order to play those two down strums. In between the and of 2, right there, and the and of 3, I'm coming down so I can play them both as up strums, right? Make sure the hands keep staying moving. And I want to just start to add the chord shapes, but not in the context of the tune quite yet. I'm just going to call out chords in the order, but let's hang on them for longer. Let's go 4 measures apiece. G first, C next, back to G, and then to D. 4 measures each. 1, 2, ready, G. Now we move to C. Ring finger down. That's it. 1, 2, ready, back to G. Good. Last chord, D, pointer finger is going to jump to this G string, and then you make that stack. Nicely done. All right, let's split it now. Let's go 2 measures apiece. G to C, G to D. 2 measures. Now we switch. Now we switch back to G. And now we go to D. Last time, let's go 1 measure apiece, G and C. And now we're starting to get a little closer to our tune. Here we go, ready, G. Hey, where did we go? C and G. Days when the rains came. Back to G. Down in the hollow. Playing a new game. What's really great too is the same progression is what the chorus is. It's going to happen later in the song. So you actually, kind of 2 birds with 1 stone, already know how to play the majority of the song, the verse and the chorus. The chorus just has a different melody. The lyrics are really difficult. It goes sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la, G. Sha la 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 G la 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 ti da. And let's finish on G. La ti da. Cool. So yeah, a lot of times people fail to realize it's like, oh, that's most of what the song is. If you can get that chord progression memorized, especially not just memorized by letter name and chord picture, but actually how your hands move between each of those chords, like the dance routine of getting from chord G to chord C, back to chord G and back to chord D. If you can lock that into your left hand, then you've pretty much set up a really, really strong foundation to be able to move forward with this tune. And hopefully by week 2 and 3, you're starting to integrate lyrics, getting the melody going with your voice. Once these skills are a little more locked in with your right and left hand. All right, let's go back to this picture for a bit here, and then we can look at the bridge. The bridge is really the only other thing we need to know, but you can see it looks a lot more confusing, right? Just make sure that we're aware of what these pictures kind of mean here. This little squiggly, I don't know what that is. It's like a straight-faced emoticon. With a double chin, maybe? I don't know what that is. Anyway, it represents a repeat symbol and a repeat symbol, right? And so this is what's called the opening bracket. This is what's called the closing bracket. And what you want to do is play through this. And then when you hit this repeat bracket, you're going to bounce back to the beginning. Cool? If this has a times number 4 or times number 5, it's that many times repeated. But when you just see the brackets, then it's just 1 repeat through. Now, you see parentheses around this E minor chord, which we haven't gone over that left-hand shape. We will do that right before we end class today. But this parentheses here, remember, that represents the first ending. And then the parentheses outside of the bracket represents the second ending. And in this case, there's actually a third ending that we'll talk about in a second. But just know that that's really what these parentheses around these chords mean. So how I would play this is I'd play 1 measure of C, move to D, move to G, move to E minor, and then I'd hit the repeat and come back to the top. And then I'd play C, D, G again. And instead of playing the first ending, I'd actually skip to the second ending, which is D. So my whole progression is G, C, D, G, E minor, C, D, G, D. That's sort of the first ending. Cool? And second endings. Before we get into this D times 3 before chorus, let's see if we can run this a little bit after we map out what an E minor chord looks like. So E minor is, one of the trickier chords, especially in the kind of beginner's realm, because this is one of the first chords that you play that you actually have to move your position. And what I mean by that is most of the chord shapes we learn how to play, your knuckle's kind of right here around the nut. Your pointer finger is most of the time on the first fret, middle finger second, ring finger third, and pinky fourth, right? Like when we play a C chord, we don't play it with our pointer finger up here. We play it with our ring finger, right? In this open position, you can access most of the chord shapes that you learn in the beginning. But the E minor, you'll see, the pointer finger is actually on the second fret. And you see that my kind of grip is a little bit further up the neck rather than being kind of here, right? And so that's the big thing that you want to pay attention to is when you make the jump, just make sure that you are shifting just a little bit. See kind of how my knuckle is here near the nut, this white piece. And then when I'm playing the E minor, it's more like it's right around where the first fret is. That way, when I bend my finger, pointer finger is right there on the second fret, middle finger on the third fret, and then ring finger on the fourth. I like to visualize this chord as kind of a stair step, right? Here's your first step, then you go up a string, up a fret, up a string, up a fret, this little stair step down. And a good pivot point can be your pointer finger, right? If you can land there, then you can go up a string, up a fret, up a string, up a fret, and then you got your little stair step for the E minor chord. For me, this is going to be one of the more challenging chords in the tune. So, we always want to create a little bit of an exercise. And I love 3-measure exercises, which are like the chord that you're coming from into the more difficult chord, and then the chord you're moving to. So if we looked back at this picture here, if I play C and then I play D and then I play G, and then here's my E minor chord, then my entry chord is G, E minor, and then I'm going to jump back to C. That's my 3-measure exercise. G entry, E minor, the chord that I'm working on the most, and then C. So that little 3-measure exercise can be a great little focused way to start to learn the maps and learn those transformations like we were talking about earlier in the class. So let's take a look at that exercise. We're going to go G for 4 beats. Now watch, my pointer finger is already on the second fret. So really all I got to do is drop it to the A string. As soon as I drop it to the A string, then my middle and ring can just kind of stack up in front of it. And then the last move to the C chord, since my ring finger's on 4, I actually need to make that shift back to get my ring finger on 3, right? So let's try that 3-measure exercise. 1, 2, ready, here we go. G, 2, and ready. Pointer finger to the A string, and then I make that E minor. And you can see that little micro shift, and then I sort of shift back, right? Same thing here, G, and then when my pointer finger drops to the A string, I make that little shift up. Everybody see that? I'm dropping right there and making that little micro shift. And remember, if the point of contact stays constant on the bottom, which is this knuckle back here, right? Let me see if I can get a better angle at that. Yeah, that knuckle back there. If that can stay as the only point of contact, then it slides really easily along the fretboard, just like that, right? So G, 2, ready, and then it hops down. Pointer finger, middle, ring. There's the E minor. And then that micro shift back to get the ring finger there. Let's try it 2 more times. G, 2, and ready. E minor, and then C. Like I said, this is going to be the more challenging chord for most of the people here. So make sure you're getting lots of exposure, lots of repetition, and really focusing on transformation, right? If that exercise starts to feel really good and you're confident, then you can move to either playing quarter notes or you can play the rhythm, right? So if I move to quarter notes, it would sound like 1, 2, 3, and then the exercise gets a little bit more musical. And then we go to E minor, and then we go to C. And if that's feeling really great, really smooth, then we can play the rhythm. Down, down, up, down, E minor, and then to C. Yeah? Remember what I said at the beginning of class. If we can remember and pay attention to sequencing, we're going to get to our end goal a lot sooner and finish on G. So there's another example of kind of removing the skills from the actual repertoire itself and focusing on them in more of an exercise format where you're just getting the reps you need to really familiarize yourself with those movements. Okay, cool. So that means last thing we want to talk about in class here is this little section, the third ending. Oh my goodness. A lot of variation in this. But when you look at it kind of in an overview way, it's actually not that complicated. Let's walk through the things that we play. So here we are in the verse. That's going to be our first introduction. And remember, this verse progression, same as the chorus, G, C, G, D. We spent a lot of time that on the beginning class. You're going to play through that, and you're going to play through it 4 times. I didn't put the repeats there, but just know that you're going to play through that progression 4 times. G, da, hey, where did we go? C, and G, days when the D came, and then you restart, doom, down in the C, then to G, done playing a new, then to D, right? And so that progression there, it's going to lock you. It's going to get you all the way through the verse. And then we go into the bridge like we talked about. First ending, right? Repeat, jump to second ending. And in this instance right here, this bridge goes straight to the next verse. So this is really the only time you're going to do this first and second ending. When you actually get down to here where the bridge, that little B there, instead of going to the verse, it jumps to the chorus, the sha-la-la-la part. That's when you're going to use this. D times 3 before chorus, and that's why I labeled it that way. You're going to play C, D, G, E minor in your bridge. You're going to hit back to the repeat C, D, G, and then instead of going to just 1 D, you're going to go to 3 measures of D before that chorus. Cool? So I'll show you both examples. I'll show you going from bridge into verse, and then I'll show you going from bridge into chorus. And just remember, it's only on the first time that you only play 1 measure of D as your second ending. Only on the first time, because you don't play a chorus after that first verse. Cool? So I'll start at the bridge. And, you can play along or you can just listen. But remember, these are the maps that you really want to make because, we know most of it, the verse and the chorus. And so we just got to work these bridges up. Okay, I'll start at the first bridge. 1, 2, ready, C. You, my D. Brown-eyed girl, E minor first ending, and then back to the repeat. You, my D, brown-eyed girl. First ending will be 1 D, and back into a verse. Whatever happened to Tuesday, it's so slow. So that was going from a bridge into a chorus where I only used 1 measure of D to kind of connect it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that bridge again. And instead of going to another verse, I will go to the chorus. And you'll kind of feel where those 3 measures of D kind of set you up, build a little bit of suspense before you drop into the chorus. Cool? So I'll play that bridge again. 2, 3, 4, C, you, my D, brown-eyed girl, G, E minor. That's your first ending. Repeat. You, my D, brown-eyed girl. Second ending, 3 measures of D. Do you remember when? That's the second. Here's the third. We used to sing sha-la-la-la-la, la-la-la-la, la-la-ti-da, la-ti-da. So you kind of see that example. Only in that first measure do you only play, only in that first rotation going from verse 1 into the bridge. From bridge 1 into the verse, do you play 1 measure of D? The rest of the time, since you're moving into the chorus, you have the 3 measures of D into the shalalas. Yeah, that's about it I wanted to talk about today regarding this tune. And remember, so make sure you're printing it out. Make sure that this thing up here in bold is what you're really focused on, especially for this week 1. Memorize that order of chords. Figure out how to play this bridge with the first and second ending, right? And then that will be your left hand's job. And then, of course, your right hand's job is to lock in this rhythm. So, yeah, that's about it for this week. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Next week, we're just going to jump in and start playing a tune. Hopefully, you guys have, a decent overview of how to get it. And so we want to start to stitch that together as soon as possible, right? We know how to play each of these individual parts, but we also understand how the song flows from beginning to end. Those are sort of our 2 outcomes when it comes to knowing this tune by the end of the month. Thank you, guys. That was fun and informative. And it's such a fun tune to play. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks again for jumping into UCLab this month. Looking forward to seeing you in person, as in person as we can get via Zoom next week. All right, guys, have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care. Bye.